bring their ass here and start building them desks and stuff in America, because he's gonna make America great again. Let's go, Donald Trump.
Politics like that?
Nope.
It's not good for the country. Who does that? Yeah, your team got an offense and a defense. They not supposed to be enemies. The enemy is the other side.
Yes.
Never talk about it. I'm not that controversial.
President Trump was accommodating. I'm gonna give the man this. The man was very congenial.
Just show me what he's done for black people so I can understand, because right now I don't.
All right. Go on and collect.
Kamala Harris for president.
Steve Harvey might have finally run into somebody who's not scared of him, and it's Katt Williams. On Club Shay Shay with Shannon Sharpe, Katt didn't do jokes, he did damage. He said the comedy game is fake, called out big names, and then turned directly to Steve Harvey. Katt said Steve can't call himself a king of comedy when his whole career is built on using other comedians' work. He brought up the long-running claim that Steve took style, delivery, and even material from Mark Curry, the Hanging with Mr. Cooper star, and then built the Steve Harvey show off that formula.
Kamala Harris and the Democratic plantation is paying you celebrities, paying you to shame black people into voting. Y'all know we not going to get.
The way Katt told it, Steve didn't just take a joke, he took a whole lane and sold it like it was his. Then Katt went after Steve's whole "I came from nothing, I slept in my car, I was broke and hungry" story. He said that image is exaggerated and that Steve was already getting paid back then. So the "I survived off faith and hustle" narrative people fell in love with, Katt said that's part of the act. That's why this moment hit so hard online.
Same Steve that went to go watch Mark Curry do his whole sitcom and then stole everything Mark Curry had. Now Steve got a sitcom where he the principal and he making all black men think he got the best lineup in the business, and it's a man unit. People, he used to be homeless. That's my story. That's not his story. Steve Harvey wasn't never homeless. When 25 years ago, he was making $3,000 a show in cash and doing 5 shows a week. They just tell the story.
People didn't hear it as comedian beef. They heard it as, yo, has Steve Harvey been packaged and protected this whole time? And once Katt said it on camera, the internet started listening. Steve Harvey built his public brand on one core story. I started with nothing. I was broke. I was living in my car. I grinded my way to the top. That underdog story is what made people trust him. It's why audiences saw him as proof that faith and hard work can actually pay off. Katt Williams is saying that story is not real the way Steve tells it. According to Katt, Steve wasn't some starving comedian barely surviving. He says Steve was already getting paid solid money decades ago, doing multiple shows a week and walking out with real cash. In other words, the "I was sleeping in my car, struggling just to eat" angle wasn't pure truth, it was branding. It made Steve look humble, relatable, safe. It made him look like a man who earned everything by being a good, clean, God-fearing professional. And that's not the only thing Katt called out. He brought back the situation with Mark Curry.
Here in this country, Donald Trump is not gonna be that bad. Don't run.
The claim is simple. Steve watched Curry's style and then showed up on TV doing a version of that same style, same type of character, same energy, same flavor, and turned it into the Steve Harvey show. The allegation is that Steve didn't just take inspiration, he took the blueprint and cashed it in without credit. From Katt's point of view, that matters, because Steve didn't become Steve Harvey off one breakout stand-up moment. He became Steve Harvey through TV, through being the face, through being the one networks could sell to households. So if that TV image was built off somebody else's lane and the struggle story was polished for sympathy, then the foundation is already shaky. That's why KT called him a manipulator.
Ain't for sale. We bartering on business. We standing on business. Bring us some tangibles or get out of my face. Only carried on because y'all got paid to carry on. Can we please?
He wasn't just saying Steve stole jokes. He was saying Steve knows how to shape a narrative, make himself look like the chosen one, and make everyone else look like they're just mad he made it. KT's message was basically, this wasn't luck, this wasn't destiny, this was strategy. And once you hear it like that, the next question becomes obvious. If Steve didn't really earn the King of Comedy title the way people thought, then who did? And that's where Bernie Mac's name comes in.
This is sad. We've never been here before. Be a movie star. There are 30,000 new scripts in Hollywood every year. Not one of them asks for a country bumpkin black dude that can't talk good over KB and look like Mr. Potato. Never been at the point where neither option is good for us. in real life.
No.
This is a different conversation. This is, would you rather go back with your ex or would you rather go back?
When people talk about kings of comedy, they picture Steve Harvey standing next to Cedric the Entertainer, D.L. Hughley, and Bernie Mac. That tour was huge. It made all of them household names. It also gave Steve that king label he still uses today. But Katt Williams is saying that label was never really his. Katt basically said Bernie Mac was the real king. Bernie was the one the crowd loved for being raw, honest, and fearless. He didn't clean himself up for Hollywood. He didn't talk like a brand. He talked like himself. Bernie could walk on stage, say exactly how he felt, and the room would explode. No filter, no fake smile. Steve, according to Katt, wasn't that. He was the safe one. He was the one studios could polish, put in a suit, and build daytime TV around. Katt's point was that Hollywood pushed Steve to the front not because he was the funniest, but because he was the most controllable. He could host, he could smile for mainstream TV, he could sit on a couch in the morning and give advice to America. That's where it turns from jokes into legacy. Because once Bernie Mac passed, something changed. Steve slid into that elder statesman role. He became the voice. He became the one doing the interviews, giving the wisdom, speaking like he was the face of black comedy. He was presented as the respected veteran, the blueprint, the guy everyone was supposed to look up to. What Katt is saying is that wasn't natural. That wasn't the streets choosing Steve. That was positioning. And that hits people emotionally because Bernie Mac is still loved today in a way that feels pure. He's one of those names fans protect. So when Katt suggests Steve benefited from Bernie being gone, that he took that spot and wore it like it was always his, fans did not like that. It made people ask, wait, did Steve take that crown or was it handed to him? That question alone is dangerous for Steve, because once you doubt how someone got the throne, you start doubting how they keep it. And Katt wasn't done. After he brought up Bernie, he went straight for the next part of Steve's image, the friendly, godly, advice-giving TV uncle the world thinks they know. Steve Harvey built a second career off being Uncle Steve. Daytime talk shows, game shows, relationship advice, motivational speeches, God this, God that, telling people how to carry themselves, how to find a good partner, how to get their life together. That version of Steve is calm, wise, humble, spiritual, and always talking like he wants to help. Katt Williams called that version fake. He said Steve's real talent isn't comedy, it's control. Controlling how he looks to the public, controlling what people believe about him, controlling the room. Katt painted him like a person who smiles on camera and plays moral leader, but off camera moves in a way that's cold and self-serving. People online immediately connected that to all the stories that have floated around about Steve's attitude behind the scenes. The leaked memo where he allegedly told his own staff not to talk to him in the hallway, not to approach him, not to pop up on him with questions. The stories about him being rude, distant, untouchable, that does not match the warm, I'm here for you sister personality he puts on TV. Katt also went after Steve as an actor. He basically said Hollywood never really wanted Steve as a real movie star. He clowned him, saying nobody in Hollywood was out here begging for a character like Steve Harvey, a loud country dude who can't really act like that. The point he was making wasn't just disrespect. The point was, Steve didn't break into movies because of talent. He became valuable because he was marketable. He could be put in front of mainstream America as a safe, funny black man who wouldn't scare sponsors. So now Katt has hit Steve in two places. One, your came from nothing story isn't real. And two, your mentor/father figure act is a performance. That's where the word hypocrite started popping up all over social media. People began saying, how are you on TV teaching morals, teaching loyalty, teaching integrity? If behind the scenes you're stepping on people to climb, they started replaying old clips of Steve giving relationship advice and calling himself a man of faith, and putting that next to accusations that he used other comedians' material, that he pushed himself into top spots, that he shut people out once he got power. And here's the part that really hit viewers. Katt said this with a straight face. He wasn't yelling, he wasn't performing, he sounded tired. He sounded like someone who's watched this for years. That calm tone made people believe him. And the second people start believing the Uncle Steve act is an act, the internet does what it always does next. It starts digging. After that interview dropped, the internet did not treat it like normal comedy drama. It moved like a case file. Clips of Katt talking about Steve blew up on TikTok, ran through Twitter, hit YouTube reaction channels. People started stitching those clips with old Steve Harvey moments and saying, look at this, he's been like this. The mood flipped fast. Viewers started pulling up old interviews where Steve talked down to other comics, checked guests in a way that felt a little arrogant, or acted like he was above everyone else in the room. Stuff that people used to ignore because, oh, that's just Steve being blunt, suddenly started getting recirculated with a new caption, fake nice on camera, different off camera. People also started calling out that man of God image he leans on. The same audience that used to repost his motivational clips was now saying he uses religion as a shield. Like he'll preach public values and then, according to what Katt's saying, turn around and play the Hollywood game in private however he needs to. And then the next wave hit. People started talking cancellation. It went from Steve's not what we thought to he needs to be held accountable fast. You saw comments saying networks shouldn't keep giving him shows if this is who he really is. People were tagging the platforms he's on, saying why is he still the face? They were comparing him to other TV hosts who got exposed for being totally different behind the scenes and saying Steve might be next. That's what makes this different from some random rumor cycle. This wasn't tabloids making up drama. This wasn't a blogger fishing for views. This was another veteran comic, someone who's been in the same rooms telling the story like he's been waiting to say it. That gave it credibility. Now it's not just, is Steve Harvey rude? It's, has Steve Harvey been propped up and protected for years while everybody pretended not to see it? And just when people were already heated, someone else's name re-entered the conversation and made it worse. Monique. Monique had already tried to warn people about Steve Harvey years ago, and back then a lot of folks didn't want to hear it. When she spoke out about being blackballed and underpaid, she said Steve wasn't really standing on integrity like he claimed. She said he told her straight up that it's not always about doing what's right, it's about protecting the check. Basically, play the game, keep the money flowing, then talk about principles on TV later. At the time, people called her bitter. People said she was just mad at Hollywood. Steve came out looking like the reasonable one, the professional one, the businessman. He did interviews, he talked like he was trying to help her. He kept his clean image. But now, after Katt said what he said, that whole conversation with Monique is being replayed and people are looking at it differently. They're saying, hold on, she wasn't lying. She was telling us how he really moves when the cameras aren't on. That lines up perfectly with what Katt is saying. Steve's public voice is stand on faith, stand on character, do the right thing. His private move, according to these stories, is make sure I don't lose my position. And that's the part that really stings his brand. Because Steve doesn't just host shows, he sells himself as a mentor. He positions himself like the guy who tells you how to carry yourself, how to be a man, how to get respect, how to be disciplined. He talks like he's the blueprint. So when Monique says he told me money over integrity, and Katt says he built his name off other people and called it leadership, those two voices together start sounding less like hate and more like a pattern. And once people start seeing a pattern, that's when they start stepping back and asking, so how much of Steve Harvey is real? That's also where the conversation stops being about just one comedian. Katt basically said this is how Hollywood works. He said this industry will pick the person they can control, push them forward, protect them, make them the face, and then try to erase the people who don't play along. And in his eyes, Steve Harvey is exactly that kind of chosen face. Which leads to the next question. How is Steve reacting to all of this right now? Because what he does next might decide if the crowd forgives him or if they're done. Normally, when Steve Harvey gets dragged in public, he knows exactly how to handle it. We've seen him do it for years. He'll smile, crack a humble little joke, talk about how God has a plan for him, remind everybody that he came from nothing, and then quietly move the conversation somewhere safer. That's his playbook. That's how he survived other situations, the public backlash, the messy headlines, even times people said he was out of line. He always found a way to make himself look like the grown man in the room who doesn't entertain drama. This time, that playbook isn't working. Because this time, Steve didn't immediately jump in front of a microphone to clean it up. He didn't go on his radio show with a 10-minute let me set the record straight. He didn't post a long y'all know my heart type message. He didn't sit in front of the camera and say I've always moved with integrity and anyone saying otherwise is lying. He went quiet. For somebody like Steve, that silence is loud. People noticed instantly. Fans started saying, why is he not saying anything? Where's the response? And the longer he stayed silent, the more it looked like he wasn't ready for this one. That opened the door for a new narrative, that behind the scenes, he's not calm at all. What's being said now is that Steve is heated and his team is scrambling hard behind the scenes. The talk is that they're already in crisis mode, locking in calls, monitoring what clips are spreading, trying to get ahead of the conversation, trying to figure out who's going to speak and how. Not because of comments, because of money. That part matters. Because this isn't just Twitter is mad, this touches his business. Steve Harvey doesn't just tell jokes anymore. He is a product, he's a host, he's a brand partner. He's the safe face networks put on daytime TV and family TV. When you're in that position, you're not just selling comedy, you're selling trust. You're selling I'm the guy you can let in your house every single day and it's okay. What Katt Williams attacked wasn't Steve's talent. It was Steve's trust rating. Katt basically walked into the room and said, this man you think is honest, clean, and wise, that's an act. Off camera, he moves completely different. And once that idea gets inside the public conversation, it becomes a direct threat to Steve's entire lane, because his lane is built on being believable. That's what makes this so dangerous for him. You can bounce back from a bad headline. You can apologize for one messy moment. You can laugh off a rumor. But once people decide that your whole personality is fake, you can't just smile on TV and make that go away. Because now every time you smile, people are watching for cracks. That's what we're seeing happen right now. You're already seeing people take old clips of Steve and replay them with new eyes. Before, fans would repost those motivational speeches and say, "This man is giving game." Now those same clips are being posted with captions like, "He was selling this image while doing the opposite behind the scenes." The exact same footage now reads as acting instead of wisdom. Before, he was speaking from experience. Now he's performing for the brand. And when that flip happens, it spreads fast. Because once the internet decides you're fake, the internet will go looking for every little moment that proves you're fake. That's what's happening to Steve in real time. People are pulling up moments where he seemed dismissive to other guests, moments where he talked down to other comedians, moments where instead of being a mentor, he looked territorial. Stuff that people used to ignore is now getting played back like evidence. And the more that happens, the more pressure lands on the companies around him. That's the other layer his team is worried about. This isn't just about how regular viewers feel. It's also about how networks react. Networks don't like mess. Brands don't like risk. Sponsors don't like being attached to someone who's suddenly being called manipulative, hypocritical, or fake, especially someone who goes on TV and gives moral advice. If your entire business model is "I am wholesome authority" and people stop believing you're wholesome authority, suddenly you're not safe anymore. You're a liability. That's why you're hearing talk about meetings and damage control. It's not ego, it's protection. If the public stops seeing Steve as trustworthy, certain deals start shaking. Not because of proof, not because of a court case, not because someone got exposed in paperwork, just because the vibe around his name changes. At his level, vibe matters. And here's where this hits him in a deeper way than any old scandal. Katt went at his credibility. Not his ratings, not his haircut, not his suits, his credibility. Steve Harvey's whole second half of his career is built on, "Listen to me, I've lived it. I know what I'm talking about. I've earned this wisdom. I can guide you." That's how he positions himself with men, with women, with couples, with young people trying to boss up. He's not just entertaining you, he's telling you how to live. T.I. came in and said he's not qualified to be the voice of anything, he's just good at selling you that image. That's a direct hit to the center of everything Steve sells. And once people start believing that, it turns into something even worse for him: doubt. Doubt is poison for somebody in Steve's lane, because doubt doesn't go away even if you deny everything. Doubt just sits there and waits for the next little moment to confirm itself. That's why the silence is hurting him. Normally, silence makes a star look above the drama, but in this situation, the silence is making Steve look like he doesn't know how to answer without making it worse. People are already saying, if it's not true, why isn't he saying anything? The internet doesn't give you time to regroup anymore. They don't wait for the full statement, they already decided what your silence means. And here's the scary part. If you're Steve, this might be the first time in his career where the audience isn't automatically giving him the benefit of the doubt. Before this, anytime Steve got heat, there were always fans rushing to defend him. He's a good man. He came from nothing. He's just honest and old school. He's speaking the truth people don't want to hear. Now those same people are split. Some are still riding for him, but a lot of them are saying, okay, maybe there's something here. Maybe this is who he really is. That shift is the crack in the armor, because once the crowd stops saying he's a good man who got misunderstood and starts saying maybe the nice act was always just an act, you're not dealing with a scandal anymore. You're dealing with a collapse of character. And that's the one thing you can't just PR your way out of. That's why this moment is dangerous for Steve in a way nothing else has been. The risk is not, will people be mad this week? The risk is, will people ever fully trust him again? Because his money, his shows, his power, all of that is built on trust. So now you're left with the question that nobody ever really had to ask about Steve Harvey before this. Without that perfect, untouchable mentor image, who is he? And can he still be what he's been selling all these years if the audience doesn't believe the story anymore? Here's where all of this lands. For years, Steve Harvey wasn't just successful, he was presented as the blueprint. The guy who made it from the bottom, became the king of comedy, turned into a TV star, and then used that platform to preach wisdom, faith, and discipline. He became the safe face networks could show to everyone. Katt Williams just ripped that story apart in front of millions. He said Steve didn't grind his way to the crown, he was positioned. He said Steve didn't build his TV identity from scratch. He borrowed pieces from other comedians and turned them into his brand. He said Steve doesn't really live by the morals he sells. He just learned how to look holy on camera while moving like a businessman off camera. And after that, the internet did something it almost never does with somebody this mainstream. It stopped protecting him. That's why people are talking like this might actually be the first time Steve Harvey can't smile it off. Because this isn't just drama, this is reputation, this is legacy, this is, are you actually what you told us you were? And it's bigger than Steve now. Katt made it bigger on purpose. He basically said Hollywood will crown whoever they can control and leave the real ones, the Bernie Macs, the Moniques, the people who don't play nice on the outside. Once you hear it that way, it doesn't sound like just one beef. It sounds like a system getting exposed. So now you've got two pictures. On one side, Steve Harvey, the polished brand, the mentor voice, the network favorite. On the other, Katt Williams, the one saying that's all performance and I'm tired of pretending it's real. And that leaves one last question for you watching this. Does Steve Harvey bounce back from this, or did Katt Williams just end the Uncle Steve story for good? Drop what you think in the comments and make sure you're locked in, because this is not done.